Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And right now we have a moon day soul hour with the sun 17 degrees Cancer on the descendant. So ascendant ruled by Saturn with the retrograde Saturn. And the midheaven 5 degrees Scorpio with Mars applying the conjunct Algol, and that is Mars in 21 degrees Taurus. Venus is on procyon, so we're going to welcome visible Venus and call on the energies of procyon. I know she's applying to trine Pluto, but I'm going to call on the visible evening star Venus, and I'm going to call on procyon to sweeten, to denucleify, okay, the conflicts that this opposition with Pluto brings us. It's a very emotional conflict with Venus opposite in Pluto, especially about things that have been said, or our religions, or our worldview, but the very taboo topics, okay? This is where, if Pluto right now is in Aquarius, we are addressing, for example, the fertility sciences in medical sciences, okay? Pluto Aquarius, Saturn Pisces, Venus Cancer. And if you think about the gynecology, okay, the very moon Venus, oh wow, this is so amazing because the moon is in the 8th house in Leo, which is about birthing. So you think about the science of birthing, the science of gynecology, versus the way that science has been practiced, or the medical science has been practiced, and that give us an opposition where how does the woman, both, I think it's relevant to say both trans and a woman, but if we talk about gynecology, we're talking about womb, so the woman or the man with the womb, basically how do they feel within the situation of the science as it has been practiced, and that opposition of my emotional experience versus what we've been unconscious of in the way we do science, okay? And Saturn's about structure, so there's this method of doing things, and even when we go Aquarius, this is an air sign, okay? So at an air sign, we talk about Pluto air sign. I'm, you know what, let's talk about how I have been experiencing that, because Pluto is in my 12th house and Venus in my 5th. And so for the 12th house, I have been tending to the topic of expendable children, and I've been tending to anything 12th house, okay, like the mental health and so on, from the position of air sign. Okay, that's my way of dealing with things. And then what has been neglected is actually, well, the feelings, the emotions, the moon, how I really feel about things, and the feelings of everyone around. Because when you do air, you do structure, and while it's very good in taking your own emotions not out of the way, but actually be able to reconnect through the supposed disconnect and looking at an air view, then by the time you have that epiphany where, like, oh, everybody's expendable children and so on and so on. I've been preparing an episode that's related to that, and then I got a huge weight. There is a heart there, the various hearts there, the various things that you said along the way, the various emotions that's been triggered in energy, and all of that needs processing. And And then when it gets also to my own emotions, whereas like it's all fun and games when you know that everybody's an expandable child grown if they are a public figure with a couple of figures, and even if not, then but it's not fun and games where you will say some certain things, like, you know, a lot of women feel that until they are murdered, nothing is done for them. And I may have said something along the way, along these lines, that could have triggered many minds and many hearts. But then there is also the air place where, like, hey, when I look at how even just recently a certain sentence was dealt with in the Netherlands, where a person raped a woman, okay, and or sexually harassed, was going to rape a woman, and they still try to subdue him, and suddenly we still hear this Basser van der Kolk vibes of dealing with mental ailment rather than housing first and open dialogue, which is believing people for what happened to them and understanding that these Van der Kolks are also expendable children. There I go, air again, gonna set off some minds, but then there is also the emotion that's attached to it and the tremendous crying of like, verdammt, why don't we do something about that? Why do we leave a person with no solution that, whether inside the juristic system or outside of the juristic system, and that is the exact of how the Venus is kind of like overwhelmed emotionally from the overpowering Pluto aspect, and me playing both the Pluto person. It was like, yeah, everybody's expandable children, let's stand with this and that way, yeah, but that person had I can't really say it, but it's like there's also an emotion aspect there that's been ignored and that can come up from other figures. So it's not necessarily like women versus patriarchal men, or not at all even, but we can play both the Venus person and the Pluto person when it comes to tackling structure, whether it's around the medical system, the way we do science in relation to even if you explore the oceans or faraway travel, you know, anything associated with Pisces at the end of the day. And we have Saturn retrograde, which means that certain barriers are removed, okay? And we also have Neptune retrograde, which means that we are reimagining the dream. We are revising the dream. I got my very recent experience for Neptune retrograde was when I said, I need to rest in peace, because I actually felt my soul is rested. I'm not going to talk too much about the details. And then I said, well, I need to rest in peace. And I was laughing with myself. And then there was another time that I was asking access to life. And I experienced, and then as I was driving even this morning, I was standing to something to do with a death, a murder. And I was trying to understand like certain details that I was still afraid to ask. And instead of the answer, I got the what we would call near-death experience, but the person is dead. And that was so wow for me. It's like a psychedelic experience where it's a different type of love state than anything we know, and yet it allows you to bring it down to the world in a way, and that facilitates a certain opening of kind of like the heart chakra with the moon in Leo now, and crying out, but also fending for myself and also being aware. It's kind of like the many things that happen when you bring that new energy. But it was very funny that I asked for access to life, and it came from the other realm. Very suddenly, very surprisingly, and by the bravery and questioning and daring to ask. And so with Neptune, you may have such experience of kind of like the near-death experiences that you can also get through mediumship, and then certain healing is facilitated through this, which is sudden and unexpected. That's so Neptune. Neptune, you long for something, you're authentic about your desire, which is also sextile in Pluto, and then you get this facilitating, sudden healing. Still, there are places where you may find that within this Venus trining this Neptune, basically, there is tending to the opposition with Pluto, and there is the trine with Neptune that kind of comes from, for me it was the afterlife, but for others it might be different. There are a lot of hard feelings and processed emotions to come to the surface with this, because Venus is in Cancer. She is in the sign of emo, okay, the big water sign, where it's constantly moving and shifting and changing, and the moon itself right now is in Leo, which literally means the heart, and how people may have been heartbroken or devastated, but sometimes it's like that there is a truth that this the truth, and some need to be said, and there is the heart that is heartbroken because of this, and those parts assemble in a way where, especially when we talk about tending to expendable children, and